My name is Adele Whitlock, 38 years old, born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I'm the kind of person who double-checks oven timers and still keeps grocery receipts in alphabetical folders. I plan ahead. That's my nature. For years, I thought planning made life safer, that if I handled things quietly and responsibly, the world would return the favor. I hadn't been home in a year, but I still sent money every month, $600, like clockwork. I thought that made me part of the family. Then I walked into my parents' house on Christmas Eve, holding a lemon pie and a little hope, and saw my seat at the table already taken. The chandelier light caught 6 plates, silver shining like nothing had changed. Except one thing had. My usual chair, the one between Mom and the window, now held a new place card written in Mom's careful cursive, Brent. Grace, my younger sister, looked radiant in a red sweater I'd given her last year. She glanced at me, smile tight, eyes uncertain. Brent, her fiancé, rose halfway before sitting again, unsure if he should offer my chair back. Mom turned from the stove, wiping her hands on a towel. "It's just an immediate family this year," she said, her tone warm but final, the same way she might report tomorrow's weather. I nodded, pie trembling in my hands. Of course, the cinnamon from the cider, the pine garland on the banister, Bing Crosby crooning in the background, it all looked perfect. That perfection made the missing space feel deliberate. I set the pie down on the counter and watched as Mom slid the final dish onto the table. The lemon scent mingled with roast turkey and something else distant. Maybe. Somewhere between the laughter and the clink of silverware. I realized I didn't belong in that picture anymore. I stayed in the doorway longer than I should have, coat still on, fingers stiff from the cold. The room shimmered under the chandelier, every garland and candle arranged with practiced care. Mom always treated Christmas like a performance one she directed, starred in, and never allowed to falter. Bing Crosby sang about being home, and everyone nodded along as if harmony could erase history. Grace leaned close to Brent, whispering something that made him laugh too loudly. His voice filled the space that used to be mine. I brushed snow from my sleeve to hide the shaking in my hands. The wool of my coat smelled like rain and travel, so different from the cinnamon and roast turkey in the air. The combination made me feel misplaced, like a guest who had arrived on the wrong night. Dad sat at the far end of the table, adjusting his glasses even when they didn't need adjusting. When our eyes met, he looked down, pretending to study the napkin ring. His silence was a kind of agreement, tacit, heavy, familiar. The house hadn't changed. The same chipped snowman mugs lined the counter. The same pine-scented candle flickered near the sink. The same framed family photo hung over the mantel. Only the arrangement of people had shifted, just enough to erase me without leaving a mark. Mom passed around the serving spoons like a conductor keeping tempo. "Grace, help Brent with the potatoes," she said, and the line was delivered so smoothly it could have been rehearsed. I stood beside the doorway, nodding, smiling, waiting for an opening that never came. The lemon pie cooled untouched on the counter behind me, its scent soft and fading. The laughter rose, plates clinked, and I realized I could still predict every cue of this play. I just wasn't in it anymore. By the time I reached the main road, the snow had turned to rain, the kind Portland never really stops having, soft, endless, patient. The lemon pie sat on the passenger seat beside me, the tin still warm, but the hope that carried it gone cold. Streetlights blurred on the windshield as I drove back toward my apartment near Hawthorne. The wipers kept time with my thoughts, steady, mechanical, unwilling to stop. I'd done everything right, hadn't I? Every bill paid, every favor returned. Every quiet contribution counted as proof of belonging. At a red light, I unlocked my phone. My banking app glowed blue in the dark. The list scrolled down in tidy rows. Mom and Dad, $600. Grace, $200. Utilities, family, home. Subscriptions, shared accounts. The word family appeared like a receipt header, perfectly symmetrical, perfectly sterile. I remembered the first time I sent money home, Grace was 22, between jobs, scared and apologetic. Just for a few weeks. She'd said, I was proud I could help. Then Dad needed repairs at the lake house, and Mom hinted about grocery costs. I always said yes, because that's what good daughters do. Somewhere between those transfers, I stopped buying things for myself. I'd wanted to take a photography class, a real one, with studio lighting and film work, but the same month the class opened, Mom mentioned an overdue bill. I clicked cancel enrollment without hesitation, telling myself there would be another chance. There never was. The rain thickened. My wipers scraped harder. A rhythmic protest I didn't quiet. I pulled into my apartment lot, engine idling, the smell of lemon and sugar still faint in the air. I stared at the screen again, numbers climbing, balances shrinking, months blending into each other. Each payment had once felt like affection, proof that I mattered. But now, under the cold light of the dashboard, they looked different. They weren't love at all. They were maintenance. I shut off the car, letting the silence fill the small space, realizing I'd spent years financing a version of family that no longer existed. By the time I turned onto the main street, the rain had thickened into sleet. Portland's winter light glowed dim and amber, stretching long shadows across the empty road. The radio flickered back to life halfway through Bing Crosby's I'll Be Home for Christmas. I almost laughed. The irony was too neat, too cruel. The lemon pie sat untouched in the passenger seat, still wrapped in its foil, as if waiting for someone who'd never arrive. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel and watched the droplets chase each other down the glass. For a moment, I imagined pulling over, leaving the pie on the side of the road, walking away without looking back. But I didn't. Letting go, even of small things, takes practice. The closer I got to my apartment, the quieter the world became. Houses blurred behind veils of white, porch lights flickering like memories that refused to die. In the rearview mirror, my parents' neighborhood had already vanished, replaced by a faint reflection of my own face, eyes swollen, mouth set in a straight, polite line. When I parked in the lot behind my building, the engine hummed softly before falling still. I sat there a minute, listening to the ticking of the cooling metal, the kind of silence that feels too big for one person. Then I grabbed the pie and stepped into the cold. The air bit at my cheeks, clean and sharp. Mrs. Dalton, my neighbor across the hall, opened her door just as I reached mine. She wore a faded robe and held a steaming mug of cocoa. "Rough night?" she asked gently. "Something like that." I managed, my voice hoarse from holding everything in. She smiled, no questions. No pity, just that simple human warmth that doesn't ask for proof. "There's more cocoa if you want," she said before disappearing back inside. The door closed behind me with a soft click. My apartment smelled faintly of coffee grounds and the candle I'd left unlit. For the first time all night, the quiet didn't hurt. It just told the truth. I set the lemon pie on the counter and exhaled. The sound, small, but real, like the start of something I hadn't known I was allowed to keep. Midnight found me sitting at my desk, still in my coat, the scent of lemon and sugar clinging faintly to the air. Outside, sleet tapped against the window, steady and unbothered. Portland had gone to sleep, but my mind hadn't. I opened my laptop. The screen's blue glow washed over the apartment, catching on the framed print above my desk, a landscape I'd bought years ago, the only thing I'd ever bought just for myself. The budgeting app blinked to life, tidy and impersonal. My name sat at the top of a page that suddenly looked like a confession. The list was long. Monthly transfer mom and dad, $600, Grace's car loan, $150. Streaming accounts, $79, Lake House Fund, variable. Each line a thread pulling me back toward people who never noticed the weight. The cursor hovered over the first cancel button. My hand hesitated. For years, I'd imagined love as responsibility, quiet, constant, unquestioned. Clicking that button felt like rewriting the definition. I thought of Dad's tired voice asking, "Can you cover this one last time?" Grace's messages just until Friday. Mom's cheerful texts that always ended with a small request. My finger trembled once, then settled. Click. The sound was sharp, like a match striking in a dark room. Click. Another transfer gone. Click. Another tether cut. The rhythm built slowly, deliberate, almost musical. Not to burn bridges, I told myself, but to light my own way out. When the last confirmation screen appeared, I paused again. My reflection stared back in the glass-tired eyes. But awake. I pressed confirm. A notification flashed. All scheduled payments canceled. The page cleared. Empty. Clean. I leaned back in my chair, listening to the hum of the radiator and the faint drip of sleet outside. The apartment seemed to expand around me. Quiet, but not lonely. The silence that used to suffocate now sounded different, earned, intentional. I closed the laptop, the click of the lid echoing the others. For the first time in years, no one was waiting on my yes. The quiet filled the room, steady and whole. And I let it. 2 days later, I was brewing coffee when the doorbell cut through the morning quiet. The sound startled me more than it should have. Through the peephole, I saw them, Mom and Grace, standing close together in the hallway, their coats unbuttoned, snow melting in their hair. I opened the door just enough for the cold to rush in. Mom didn't waste a second. "You're being cruel," she said, voice tight and trembling. The grocery card was declined, and Grace's car payment didn't go through. "You could have at least warned us." "For paying for myself," I asked, my tone soft but steady. Her expression flickered hurt, then disbelief. "You've always helped. We thought you'd understand. You're the independent one, the practical one. You don't have a husband or kids to worry about. You're stable." She said it like stability was a debt I owed them. Grace shifted beside her, arms wrapped around herself. "Mom, maybe we should stay out of it," Mom snapped, then turned back to me. "We didn't mean to exclude you from dinner. It was just immediate family." "You're overreacting." The words landed sharper than she probably intended. I took a slow breath, the kind that keeps anger from spilling over. "You're right," I said quietly. "It was immediate family. I just finally accepted what that means." Mom frowned, as if she couldn't tell whether she'd won or lost something. "We only wanted to make things simple this year." Simple for who I asked. The question hung between us, heavy as the snow gathering on the windowsill. Her jaw tightened. "You're twisting this into something ugly." "I'm not fighting," I said, meeting her eyes. "I'm setting a boundary." The silence after that was thick enough to hear the radiator hum inside my apartment. Grace blinked fast, her mouth trembling like she wanted to say sorry but couldn't find the courage. Mom stepped back first. "You'll regret this," she said, voice brittle. I didn't answer. I just closed the door gently, the latch clicking like a final punctuation mark. Behind it, their footsteps faded down the hall, leaving only the sound of my own breathing and a strange, quiet relief that didn't feel cruel at all. 3 nights passed without a word from anyone. The apartment had settled into its own rhythm, the hum of the radiator, the soft clink of my coffee mug, the slow return of quiet as something I could live with. Then my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made me frown. Brent Callahan. I hesitated before opening the message. There was no greeting, just a short line. "You should hear this in an attached audio file." The first few seconds were background noise forks scraping plates, muffled laughter, the faint jingle of Christmas music, then voices. Uncle Neil's low chuckle. "So, how's our family martyr doing?" A ripple of laughter followed. Grace's voice, light and practiced. "She'll get over it. She always does." Then Mom, calm and certain as ever. "Maybe now we can have a peaceful dinner." The sound of glasses clinking came next, like punctuation marks to every betrayal. Someone, probably Dad, cleared his throat. "She takes everything so personally," he said. "It's exhausting." The conversation drifted to lighter topics, as though I'd been erased mid-sentence. When the recording ended, I sat perfectly still. The kitchen smelled faintly of lemon and coffee, the scent of my own small rituals. I didn't cry. I just stared at the phone, its screen black now, reflecting my face back at me like a stranger's. Another message arrived. "You deserved to know," Brent wrote, "for a long time." I didn't move. Then I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. Rain fell in slow, deliberate sheets, each drop sharp against my skin. I stood under the awning, watching my breath fog the air. The city was hushed, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your heartbeat. Somewhere between the chill and the stillness, something inside me settled, not peace, not yet, but a shape of it forming. The truth hadn't shattered me. It had only cleared the fog. I lifted my face toward the rain and let it wash the last of the warmth from my cheeks, the night pressing close and clean around me. It was mid-January when the knock came again, softer this time, but urgent. I already knew the rhythm of it, Mom's. When I opened the door, she stood there, wrapped in her winter coat, face pale, eyes red. Behind her, Grace lingered a few steps back, arms crossed, shivering. The kitchen caught fire. Mom said before I could speak, "It's bad. Smoke damage everywhere. We just need a little help until the insurance clears." Her voice trembled, but her words were cleanly rehearsed, as if she'd practiced them on the drive over. I didn't invite them in. The scent of lemon from the candle burning on my counter drifted toward the doorway, faint but steady. "Is everyone okay?" I asked. "Yes," she said quickly. "We just need some help to get through the month." The request was familiar, almost comforting in its predictability. The same pattern, the same script disaster. Need, assumption. I turned, walked to the counter, and picked up an envelope I'd prepared earlier without realizing I had. Maybe some part of me always knew this moment would arrive. When I handed it to her, relief flooded her face for one fragile heartbeat. She opened it right there, expecting rescue. Inside was a single $50 bill. Her expression changed slowly, confusion hardening into disbelief. "What is this supposed to be that," I said, my voice calm, "is what my seat at the table was worth?" The hallway went quiet. Grace's breath caught. "That's not fair," she whispered. "Neither was Christmas," I replied. Mom's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, I saw her search for something to say and find nothing. She looked smaller, like the cold had finally reached her bones. I didn't close the door immediately. I let them stand there a moment longer, the lemon candle flickering behind me, its light steady against the gray. Then I stepped back, and the latch clicked softly, sealing the air with the scent of quiet peace. It was a Tuesday morning when Brent showed up at my door. His eyes were shadowed, his coat damp from rain. He didn't ask to come in, just handed me a thick envelope, edges warped from moisture. "I found these," he said quietly. "You should see them." Inside were printed statements, all bearing my name. A credit card I'd never opened, transactions I'd never made restaurants, hotel stays, a stroller from an upscale boutique. The balance just over $8,000. My stomach turned, though not from surprise. "Grace?" I asked. He nodded once. "And your mom. She said you'd understand, that you'd never press charges because family doesn't do that." The word family hung in the air like smoke. I thanked him, though the sound of it felt foreign. When he left, I sat at the kitchen table, the lemon candle still flickering beside a cup of untouched coffee, and began making calls. The first to the bank 30 minutes on hold, the same holiday tune looping through the line, verification questions, security forms, polite voices that kept apologizing for the inconvenience. Then came the email requests, the scanned ID, the timeline 5 to 10 business days to review the claim. Next, the lawyer. Her name was Mara Lentz. Calm voice, practical tone. We spoke over video the following afternoon. Justice doesn't always look dramatic, she said, eyes steady through the screen. Sometimes it's just quiet correction. Over the next week, I signed forms, faxed copies, waited. The hold music became a kind of background anthem proof that something was still moving forward, even if slowly. Each document I sent felt like reclaiming a small part of myself. When the final affidavit arrived, I signed it with steady hands. My name, once misused, now written on my own terms. I sealed the envelope and placed it beside the candle, the wax pooling like sunlight. For the first time, the word debt didn't mean guilt. It meant closure. By March, Portland had traded its snow for soft rain again. The city felt washed clean, bare trees sprouting pale green, sidewalks damp and shining. I had stopped waiting for messages that never came. Silence, once heavy, had settled into something lighter, almost kind. One afternoon, as I was sorting through mail, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. The caller ID made me pause. Dad, for a moment. I just held the phone, listening to the rain against the window before pressing play. His voice was slower than I remembered, the edges worn down by guilt. "Hey, sweetheart," he began. "I don't know if you'll listen to this, but I need to say it anyway. You were right. We took too much and gave too little. Your mom's still figuring it out. Grace, too. But I see it now. I'm sorry." He exhaled, a faint sound of rain in the background. "You deserved better than the silence we gave you." The message ended there. I saved it but didn't play it again. Some words don't need repetition. They just need to exist. That evening, I pulled the lemon pie dish from the top shelf. It had sat untouched since Christmas, a quiet witness to everything that had come undone. I washed it slowly, the warm water carrying away months of dust. When it was dry, I set it back in the cupboard and lit a candle. The familiar lemon scent rose through the room, mingling with the rain and tea. I opened my journal and wrote 2 lines. The debt is paid. Family means choice. In the corner by the window stood the new wooden chair I'd bought last week, simple, sturdy, mine. I sat there, watching the city lights blur in the glass. The room filled with the quiet sound of being home,